Hey gang, John Bacarella here with your Lake St. Clair Fishing Report, brought to you by Sportsmen's Direct. It is July 9th, and we are in the middle of a heat wave. Man, I don't know that I can remember ever being this hot for this length of time. At least I can't remember. I'm sure it has been, but the lake temps have really skyrocketed out there. I know we got mid-70s pretty much all over the place with some near shore readings. I'm sure during the peak hours of the day, you know, the surface temp's probably getting into the low 80s in some places. Now, with that said, it doesn't seem like it's completely affected the fishing all that much, although it's affected, you know, how much energy you guys are putting out there, because not only has it been hot, but when we get these heat waves like this out there, we also tend to get virtually no wind, which means that you get like crazy bug hatches, and I don't mean just mayflies, but you know, all kinds of bugs, which is great for the fish. But it really stinks for us fishermen with those little black flies that bite you on the back of the calves, and you know, all of the little, we call them fuzz noses, all those little guys, and there's just all kinds of bugs hatching out there, which is great for all the bait fish and all the fish, but it just stinks for us being out there. Now, with that said, we've got a cold front coming in this weekend, so we're going to go from the mid-90s down to the mid-80s, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but 10-degree temperature change is a lot, and we're going to get a big wind shift out there. So the wind's going to clock around out in the north. I hope it doesn't blow too hard. I know we're going to get probably going to get some storms tomorrow as that front approaches. So for you guys that are out there, make sure you're keeping an eye to the sky or keeping an eye to your phone. Keep an eye on that radar. I don't want you to get caught out there in anything nasty. You know, this lake can really turn ugly in a hurry. But here's the thing about this cold front coming in, guys. So we've had, you know, this long heat wave, bright sunshine, clear water all over the place. Lots of light penetration, and that's really kind of slowed things down a little bit for some of you guys out there, I know, especially the guys trolling the main lake out here for walleyes. So, but what's going to happen when that wind shifts like that? First of all, this south wind has been holding this warm water up in the lake. So the lake just keeps warming up, and that warm surface water keeps getting held up here, and eventually, you know, the temps skyrocket. Once we get that north wind, once we get that wind shift, it's going to basically flush this lake out. It's going to push all that warm surface water down the Detroit River and out down into Erie, and they're probably going to have, you know, the green algae blooms from heck down there. But sorry about that, guys, down on Erie, but that's just the way it's going to go. But so we're going to get cooler water down from Lake Huron. The other thing that's going to happen, especially for you walleye guys fishing out in that deeper water, those deeper weed beds, what you've probably noticed is those weeds, even though they're not super high, because with all that extra water we got out there, the light penetration isn't getting down there to make them grow as fast as they normally would. But still, those weeds out there in that main lake are pretty much standing up straight because it's been very, very flat out there. As soon as we get that north wind, it's going to have a tendency, especially out closer to the channel, to really get that current flowing down in the lake. And what those weeds will tend to do with the north wind is they'll tend to lay flat. Now, that does a couple of things. First of all, you got a lot of bait fish hiding out there, and they're going to lose some cover really quick when those weeds lay down a little bit. The fish are going to get more active. You're going to get more, hopefully we don't get too much wave activity, you guys can't fish, but that wave activity is going to cut down the light penetration. You're going to get some very active feeding going on out there that we haven't had in a while. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been a good bite going on out there. For you guys that have been chasing smallmouth, and for you guys that have been chasing largemouth like Logan was doing, check out these two monster largies that Logan got. One was on top water, one was on I think it was on a Senko or something. But anyways, one of these big largies came on top water. There was a heck of a bite going on with the mayfly hatch out there, top water, on both largemouth and smallmouth. A shout out to Garrett Samsel. He also was posting up about the great top water bite going on out there on these smallmouths. So there's been some nice fish getting caught on top water, and that's a real hoot if you're out there chasing smallies. Now, it's going to be harder with that wind blowing all these mayfly slicks around out there to really see where those slicks are once we get into that north wind. But, you know, they're going to be out in those soft bottom areas out there. We've still got a hatch going on. So the top water bite is still going to be going, although it's going to be tough once we get a lot of water movement. So, you know, that's the top water thing going on. Now, for you guys chasing walleye, if those weeds getting knocked down a little bit and getting that surface churned up a little bit with that north wind, you're going to find that you're going to be able to get those baits up. you're going to be able to start fishing those inlines and running those cranks up a lot higher, especially if we get some cloud cover in here like we're supposed to, and that walleye bite ought to really turn on out there between that St. Clair light going up into the South Channel. They are still catching fish out there from 26, 28, and all those areas out there, all those mid-distance weed beds that are between like the American shoreline and the St. Clair light, out 3, 4, 5 miles. Find those isolated weed beds out there. You're going to find fish out there as well too. Fish on those fish above those weed tops out there, running your cranks and your inline crawler harnesses, and I think you're going to have a lot of success. Now, muskie fishing out there's not a lot of guys posting because that Canadian side is still closed to travel, but I know they're getting some big fish out there, like this one that Jason Quintano just recently got out there. I love that glass tank. Or Jason, it's a beautiful fish. I love it's just like our bait tanks in here. It's nice to be able to see those fish, those side profiles like you got on that tank on your boat there. Now, so they are getting some skis out there. I know the guys are working harder, but they are getting some nice fish. Now, as far as the walleye up in the St. Clair River, down in the lower river, it seems like it's slowed down quite a bit, although we are getting good reports from the guys fishing up on the north end above the bridge up there. And I mean, that's to be expected, right? I mean, you got a lot colder water coming down from Huron up there right now. That's going to be your coldest water in this whole system is up on that north end. That's also some of the deepest water. So with it getting really clear and, all that calm weather creating those clear conditions, those fish really like to drop back and go very deep, especially during the daylight hours. So I know that slowed down. The guys are jigging up there. They're jigging at night. They're pulling wire. They're whipping. They're pulling meat on crawler harnesses. So that up on that north end is probably your best bet. Now again, a lot of it's going to change with this cooler weather coming down this weekend. So I expect it to pick up all over the place. The perch fishing, guys I'm getting reports of some really big schools of perch out there in that same area where they're targeting walleyes. So for you guys, if you're out there early in the morning, you may want to, keep your finger on that waypoint button, or better yet, keep a couple of old school marker buoys to flip out as you're going over these weed edges, so you can mark these weed edges, and after you're done walleye fishing in the morning, you can go back and target some of these perch that are hanging out close to these isolated weed beds out there. You also are going to have fish moving up and down that channel bank. And if I wish I had some video to show you, but I've seen over the years what it looks like when you get those perch moving along that channel bank. So sometimes it's also a good technique to just anchor up close to the channel bank and wait for one of these pods of fish to come cruising by, like you'll see guys anchored up out there by the St. Clair light all the time doing that. But anyways, go a little bit old school and mark some of those weed edges out there as you're trolling for fish. You'll get very, very pinpoint accuracy. Then you can go back in and anchor up and control that boat and fish right on those weed edges and target those perch. And I think you can also do the same thing, flipping some of these easy shiners and other swim baits for smallies and for walleyes, guys, that are going to hold tight to some of those weed beds out there that have now grown up and matured a little bit and given them some cover. So you will have a lot of fish on these inside bends, on these weed beds, fishing over the top of some of these lower weed beds, and finding all that isolated spot on the spot kind of structure on these weed beds out there. I think if you do that, you'll be very successful for both perch, smallmouth bass, and walleye out in that deeper water. So I know I didn't talk about depths. I would generally fish 14 feet and deeper out there right now. That is, unless you're somebody that's targeting panfish. So we are getting good reports of some big pumpkin seeds, some big perch mixed in, bluegills, rock bass. I know you guys don't like to talk about rock bass much, but there's still a lot of them out there to be had. And then again, you got all these big largies all roaming around on some of these shallower flats, like up in Bouvier Bay, over here by the raft, all of those normal spots where you guys would target your panfish in the wintertime. Those weed beds have really matured now, and they are holding a lot of panfish. And that panfish bite, especially early in the morning, will be hot and heavy as those fish are out there feeding on mayflies, caddisflies, and all these other bug hatches that we got going on. So I know that's a mouthful that I spewed out there for you guys, but with this weather change coming, I know you guys have laid low all week, and with this heat, so we got some cooler temps. You're going to have some nice breezes to keep the bugs off you, and you should be able to get out there and really enjoy some fishing. It ought to get better every day going through the weekend, and the forecast has it staying pretty darn nice, some seasonable temps going through at least Monday. So hopefully we don't get too hard of a blow, we don't get any bad storms, and you guys can get out there and enjoy it this weekend. Hey, if you like this video content and you want to get updated as soon as the next video is out there, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon and you'll get notified as soon as the next video is up.